Today we're going to discuss the problems with comprehensible input. More particularly, we're going to discuss how we can overcome these challenges and ensure success learning English. I'm Joseph. This is Input English. Let's get started. Traditionally, we learned from our family and from school, but now in the 21st century, a third source of learning has emerged, and in this case, it is learning with comprehensible input. When we were learning in school and from our family, it was not our responsibility to design the program. It was fed to us. We were spoon-fed, if you will. But with comprehensible input, we are responsible. We're the ones who choose the input. We're the ones who choose how much, how often, how consistently. And that freedom to choose is fabulous for us, but it carries with it a lot of responsibility. For English learning, that freedom is really essential. People learning English have a variety of backgrounds, a variety of levels, and of course we all have responsibilities in our life. So we have to figure out how much English learning will fit in each day. We need to decide what sort of input is appropriate to us, to our needs. We get to choose the kind of input that suits our preferences. But with all that freedom, we have a lot of responsibility. And if we compare this new situation to what we experienced in school or learning from our family, this kind of responsibility is new to us. In order to address that responsibility, ideally, we should design a program for ourselves that meets our own needs. We should find input that we find interesting, and then we should decide how much of it we are going to absorb each day, each week, each month, each year. It's fine to have long-term goals. The trouble is long-term goals frequently are very vague. Someone might want to improve their English. There's nothing in that goal that is specific enough to push the result. If, on the other hand, a person says, I'm going to listen to 1 hour of English input each day for the next year, now that is very specific. And if they consistently do that, they will notice big results. Number 2, there are lots of distractions. Now, this is not to say that in school there were no distractions. There are distractions. But with comprehensible input, particularly if you're using a platform like this, YouTube, it's pretty easy to click away and start watching videos for entertainment. There are lots of distractions available, and because of these distractions, it gives us a greater responsibility to stay on the plan, to stay on our own plan to get the result we want. It requires a little bit of focus. At the end of the day, I would much rather have an hour of good input in my target language, in my case Spanish, as opposed to having an hour of watching entertainment videos about cats. Number 3, with comprehensible input, we usually don't get a great sense of progress. Learning language with comprehensible input is a gradual process. The progress is made daily, but it's hard to tell you're making progress. I addressed this in previous videos, and I invented my 300-hour rule. That is, if you add 300 hours to wherever you are, you will notice a difference. you will notice that your language level has improved a lot. The lack of sense of progress is a challenge because it's hard to stay focused on that day-to-day goal of getting X number of hours per day, every day, consistently. This is where habits serve us very well. If you can set your metric, how much input you want to get, and then establish daily habits to get that kind of input, then you can get through this lack of feedback from the system. Comprehensible input doesn't give you feedback. In school, we had tests, we had the group dynamics in the class, we had feedback from our teachers, we had our grades, we had a lot of feedback. Comprehensible input, there's no feedback. And that can bother you. So this is where I substitute habits and daily metrics and don't worry about the feedback. Number 4, comprehensible input is relatively unknown. It is known, it's not a great secret, but it is less well known than I would have expected. The early forms of comprehensible input date back to the 1960s, and it was 1977 that Stephen Krashen published a paper and introduced the term input hypothesis. Over the past 50 years, the implementation of comprehensible input in language learning has been astonishingly slow, in spite of the fact that it's probably the best way to learn language ever devised. To people who have not studied comprehensible input, the idea sounds almost too good to be true. Our experience in school is to study, strive, struggle, memorize, and get grades. And that's the system that we associate with education and educational progress. And then someone tells you that comprehensible input, you just need to listen to some stories and watch some television and you'll learn to be fluent. It really sounds too good to be true. But indeed, comprehensible input is true. Well done, you can listen and read yourself to fluency. People do it all the time. Number 5, corporate competition. The language learning industry is big business. This year, it is estimated to be worth $60 billion, and it will likely double in less than half a decade. With that amount of money involved, corporations are very heavily involved in language learning, but there is relatively little corporate activity in the arena of comprehensible input. Comprehensible input for language learning is difficult to monetize, and we've not seen a lot of corporate activity in this sector. So for us, it's relatively simple. If we're going to use comprehensible input, we should not be distracted by most of the apps and teaching material generated by corporate activity. Don't get sucked into corporate marketing of methods that are likely less effective. So a little bit of vigilance allows us to guard against this corporate competition. Number 6, there is false comprehensible input. There are sources of so-called comprehensible input that when you examine them, they're nothing more than traditional methods masquerading as comprehensible input. It's very easy to identify if it's a video and you click on a video labeled comprehensible input and it's all grammar and vocabulary, no stories, no discussion, then it's just a false purveyor of comprehensible input And for me, it's very easy to click away from that because I don't find that very useful. Number 7 is a big one, and that is confusion about output. By its very name, comprehensible input is all about input, but we want output. So there's this problem. If everything's about input, you feel like saying, pardon me, when do I get output? And the answer is more input. So how are we going to handle that? Well, a couple of ways. If you follow the teaching of Marvin Brown and others, then the assumption is that the output happens automatically. You just start talking. The words just bubble out of you, and you just start talking. Now, I saw that happen with me. As my level in Spanish got higher and higher, I saw opportunities to speak, but I observed that they tended to occur spontaneously. I would just say things. I think that is real, but it may not be fast enough to suit your needs. It may not be specific enough to suit your needs. On this channel, I created several videos that deal with that question of how do we transition from input to output. It's pretty straightforward. When we want to do output, we need to know what the language sounds like. So we need to be working on a solid ground of a lot of input, a lot of listening input to get the sounds right in our brain. Then we need to have a big vocabulary and a big understanding of the grammar. You can't really say things that you don't know. That has been tried in traditional learning methods, and it doesn't work very well. And then we need to recognize that output is really a collection of activities. It is summoning the words, it is pronouncing the words, it is creating sentences that make sense. There are a lot of components of output. So I, for myself, created a stepwise plan for output. I started reading out loud. And then I transitioned to speaking out loud to myself when walking or driving. I would just talk to myself. I would describe things that I was seeing. I would imagine that on my walk, I was walking with someone who could not see, and I would describe what I was looking at. I would have imaginary conversations. Transitioning to output can be fostered by language exchange, either in person or using the Tandem app. Language exchange is a great way to get conversational output without hiring a tutor. And of course, hiring a tutor is another option. So we've identified 7 challenges that come with comprehensible input. The responsibility for creating the program is ours and ours alone. It may be useful for you to keep track of the hours of the input that you consume so that you can get a sense of the progress you're making. And don't forget to use habits instead of willpower to overcome these challenges. If you like videos like this, be sure to click on this next video where we explore some interesting phrases using micro stories. See you soon.